Hey Jay, just wanted to give you a quick rundown of what I see your son doing, and we can get together and explain these things a little bit further. But there's typically 4 or 5 things that high level hitters all do, and your son does some of them well, and other things he needs to work on. But obviously, he's a good sized kid who has a lot of athleticism and really should be knocking the heck out of the ball. So I'm going to get started, and I'm going to compare him to Cabrera, obviously one of the best hitters ever in baseball. Some people say we shouldn't be comparing kids to Major League Baseball players because they can't do the same movement patterns. I think it's an excuse not to teach a kid the correct way to hit, but regardless, that's my opinion. But anyway, let's start with his stance. His stance is fine. I don't care where kids start. I care where they get to within their stride. So if we go down and we look at Cabrera, this is him striding out just before foot plant. So if you watch his foot right now, it's going to move just a hair. It's not the best video, but you can see that's foot plant right there. If you look at the yellow lines that I drew on his feet, you can see that's his stride pattern. These guys pretty much all stride straight. They don't step in the bucket for inside pitches and step across the plate for outside pitches. They pretty much stride straight all the time. If we take a look at your son, he's definitely stepping in the bucket, right? You can see him step out. He's trying to create space. Young kids typically don't like inside pitches, and because they don't turn behind the ball, they go out and get the ball, they tend to step in the bucket. So that's one thing we just need to work on. That's really not that big of a deal. It's sometimes counterintuitive. What I would do with him is I would open up his stance and I would make him stride in instead of his stance is closed right now and he's striding out. At foot plant, what's critical is the position that Cabrera's bat and arms are in. So if you take a look right now, his arms are bent. His barrel is tipped towards the pitcher, and if the knob of the bat were a flashlight, it would be shining on the catcher's feet. So if we watch your son at foot plant, which is right there, right about there, you can see he's already begun his swing. His barrel is stuck behind his back, behind his head, if you want to say. His arms are already down. If there were a flashlight on the end of that barrel, he'd be shining it at first base. So that's a position that we need to change for him. So if we were to look at it, really his barrel should be up here. Oops, let's see. There we go. His barrel should be up here. His back elbow, should still be up and parallel to the ground at foot plant. What most kids do at this age when you start throwing them balls is they begin their swing too early, and that's what he's doing. I don't know if you remember me saying to you the other day, he's just out of sequence, and that's kind of what's going on there. His killer, if we watch Cabrera when we continue to move him forward, watch his arms. His arms really just stay in the same position they are, and he rotates. He turns his upper body. See the bends in his arms? They just stay the same as they were in the starting position. There's no early arm bar of the front arm or slotting of the rear elbow purposefully. It just happens by itself. So if we watch your son's back elbow is already dropped, what happens is it races. So what I mean by that is it's catching up to his front elbow, and you can see that's kind of his position at foot plant. And let me see if I can get rid of a couple of these things. If we look at Cabrera's arms and your son's arms, much different positions. Your son is kind of like this. Not really too arm barred, but his back elbow is in here. It's at his belly button. That's not where we want it at that point. So with his elbows in that position and the barrel behind his back still, and you can see where Cabrera's is within the swing, way out front. The barrel stays in front of his shoulder. He's connected. Your son has no choice but to basically swing around the ball. So for here, if you watch, he's casting. He has to go around the ball. Now, these aren't the best pitches at all. What I would suggest, too, if he's working in the cage and somebody's not throwing him strikes, he shouldn't be swinging. force his coach or whomever's pitching to him to throw strikes. But you can see again, racing back elbow, catches up to the front elbow. All he can do at this point is spin his upper body, pull the barrel through and across. Okay, so something else we can work on. I can show you some drills. His stride is pretty good in terms of length, and he gets some forward movement, so I like that. So it's creating some early momentum. So if we look at approximately right there, we move him forward. He strides and lands in a relatively athletic position, and it's similar. Let's get him at landing. Cabrera at landing. Whoops, right there. You know, their lower half is pretty similar. The difference is what Cabrera then does with his lower half. If you watch his back foot, okay, as he continues to pull his rear hip through, his back foot is going to slide forward. Okay? That's true hip turn. That's generating true momentum. He gets up on his toe. His foot actually comes forward and towards the third base dugout just a little bit. I know it's hard to tell there. If you watch your son, he squishes the bug. So if you watch the yellow line I have back by his foot, it looks like he's getting good hip turn, but he's actually doing a negative movement. He's just spinning on his back foot. Okay, so that forward momentum that he created, he's basically losing with a negative movement. And I could explain that to you a little bit further. The other thing Cabrera obviously does really well is he gets great extension through the ball, and he finishes in a slightly leaned back position. So here he is, okay? If you look at him, he's slightly leaned back. If we watch your son, when he finishes, he's going to be standing up completely straight. It's this slightly leaned back position that creates a slightly upward bat path and allows you to get the ball in the air. Everybody's talking about launch angle, and I believe in launch angle to a point, but to me, it's body position that creates a slightly upward swing, which allows us to get the ball in the air. It's not teaching kids to swing up. I think that is a clear mistake. So a lot of good things here. The other good thing is what he does with his head. So let me get some of these lines out of here. If you watch Cabrera at foot plan again, right there, and we watch his head's going to stay right there. He just turns, moves, goes up a little bit actually, probably because this was a pretty high pitch. And I try to compare a high pitch to your son. If you watch your son, he strides out. Head should no longer move after foot plant. So right there, and his stays in a pretty good position. So swinging hard, I love it. Trying to hit the ball hard, it's awesome. But a lot of good things. Just some cleanup and some sequencing issues. And believe me, 99% of the kids at his age and lower have that racing back elbow. But it is something, we can work on and clean up. Let me know if you have any questions. We'll get together. I'll explain these things to you. We'll go from there. Thanks, man.